I've read over maybe 150, 200 self-improvement business books, and up until now, I don't like reading.
Any person out there, everyone can read 5 pages a day. If you don't, if you can't do it, it's just complete bullshit. You can read 100 business books, but it's not gonna give you $1 billion company.
Welcome back to another edition of the Founder's Diary. Today we'll be turning a new page, or a new chapter, should I say, because today is all about reading and how it can help you as a founder. So Sam and Koen, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Excited to talk about books and reading.
Yeah, you Koen?
Same here, same here. I think there's lots to discuss. So I think you want to start with the first question, Becca?
Absolutely. So I guess maybe the first thing is like, why do you love reading and how do you think it helps you as a founder?
I think there's a lot to say about it. I think Sam and I probably have the same view, but correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. But I think over the last years, 7-8 years, like reading has been a big part of my life. And I think at the beginning stages, I started learning because of Tai Lopez, a bit of a controversial influencer with selling courses online. But when you were 17, I was 19, like long time ago.
In high school still. Tai Lopez had like this viral video where he was saying,
here
like,
in my garage.
Here in my garage with my Lamborghini. But what's more important than my Lamborghini are these books. The books I'm reading.
Knowledge.
Wow.
Super stupid video, but it went completely viral.
Yeah.
And I think, it was a weird video, but that it did in some way sort of inspire us to read other types of book than you read in school, because in school you have mandatory reading and you read all these history books, but then he talked more about sort of self-help books or psychology books and those sort of topics. And I think that's when we bought a first book on bol.com, a super exciting moment. And then we had the first self-help book. Yeah.
I love it. What was the first self-help book that you guys
Well,
got?
he had like a website with like his top 100 books. So I think we clicked a couple, and one of them was a gigantic book we got, which was a big flop, which was like the evolution of psychology. And back then, like we were still very young. We're like, oh, this is great, exciting. We're going to learn new things.
I got the cheat code to humankind.
The cheat code. But I think what I remember, one of them was how to influence friends and how to win
friends and influence people.
The one I remember is how to win friends and influence people. We can cut that previous part out.
No worries.
Okay.
Like, we're still learning.
Daniel Craig or something. And I think that was one of the first ones I read.
Daniel Craig.
We apologize for any...
That's the actor, I believe, from James Bond.
Daniel Craig. You know what? Like, the most important thing is that you take the lessons from the books. We apologize to any authors who may be triggered by our misremembering in this episode.
I thought you said... I thought you were saying that... I said the name wrong. Daniel Craig.
That's what I thought as well.
He's on drugs. The writer. But anyway.
We'll see anyways.
But that book was nice because he talked about so many different topics on just simple things, right? If you meet new people at the business event, just remember them by the name. And to this date, I still do that every day, like in meetings when I want to trigger someone's ego a bit more. You just say their name quite frequently in a conversation. And what I've read back then from that book, obviously I don't remember everything, just a few things. And it's not that I do it always very conscious, but sometimes, it comes up and I do it conscious. What was the first book you read, Sam?
Something like that.
Daniel Craig.
A book from Daniel Craig. No, but in the beginning, I think we were more triggered with these like super catchy titles, like How to Get Rich and all this, and we read those books as well. Some were nice, some were bit of a flop. But coming back to your question, you asked like, why do you like reading? Why it's important? I think I don't know. I've read over maybe 150, 200 self-improvement business books, and up until now, I don't like reading. I don't like it, but I think it's super important to do it. So every day I have to tell myself, okay, read 20 pages or 10 pages, and then once I'm reading, I get into it. But I just think it's a mistake if you don't read, because you can read all these great stories, get all these insights from other people, and then you don't have to make the same sort of mistakes that they have already made and you could have read about. So I think that's why it's important, because I think it gives you an edge if you read the stories, and you already get sort of experience, not just from doing, but solely from reading. And then if you're sort of in the work, doing your day-to-day things, you don't make certain mistakes because you remember something you've read, or I don't know. I think that way it really is beneficial. And that's even though I don't really like it, I still do it.
Yeah, I think one thing to add from my side is that it's also the mindset you teach yourself. And there's like a super simple example, right? If you put a person in a room and that person has to read a book every single day, that person is gonna think like that book, right? If that person has no surroundings or whatsoever. It's the same if you're religious, right? And you read the Bible every single day, all these verses in the Bible are stuck in your head, right? And you can just name them up. And I think especially really religious people can do that really well. I think it also comes down to what you read is who you are and what you think. So if you scroll the whole day on TikTok, that's stuck in your mind. If you read a lot, then that is stuck in your mind. So I think for me, it's just always a reminder, like the humans as itself are like really survival animals, right? So we rather not spend too much energy. We rather just sit, relax, do Netflix, drink, eat, just relax, which is also important. But reading just gives you always that mindset you need as an entrepreneur. And I'm not saying that I don't have that mindset, but it just helps me evolve the mindset even more, right? Get into it.
Maybe also with some books, like it's, I don't know, cliche example, but a book about Steve Jobs. If you read it, it also feels like, I don't know, you have a conversation with a friend, or like someone that has that certain mindset, has put it down on paper, and you read it, and also sort of inspires you a little bit, or gives you new ideas on things you want to do yourself. So in that sense, like what you read is also sort of, it influences your thinking, and thereby also influences what you do, basically.
Absolutely. I think there has been like some studies or research about that as well, but like, because like when you watch TV, sometimes you can see yourself in a character, sometimes not so much. But I do feel like when something is written, you can really kind of take on that narrative sometimes when you're reading, and feel that kind of connection, like you said, when it's written by somebody that you can kind of picture or think about. So very interesting that although you're maybe not the biggest fan of reading, you do feel like it's a fundamental part of your like personal growth and mindset. And I think that's a good hot take out there. Maybe even if you don't like reading, if you kind of make it a habit or a routine.
Let's just do it. And you can start simple, right? Like any person out there, everyone can read 5 pages a day. If you don't, if you can't do it, it's just complete bullshit. It's just a big excuse, right? I don't like reading. Just pick up the book, read 5 pages, like 5 minutes of your day. Everyone can do that. And if you read 5 pages a day, well, you read one book, maybe a month and a half. But if you read 10, 20 pages, you can easily read a book a month, and do that 5 years, and you learn so much. And the fun thing is, a book itself, you're not going to remember everything in the book. You might just remember one sentence in the whole book of 500 pages, but that one sentence can change your perspective on life for good. And I think that's one thing to remember. Like whatever you read, sometimes it can be crap, sometimes it's extremely great, but one sentence can change your whole perspective.
Absolutely. I think like that's a really good point. And also I think like you said, there are so many also more accessible ways that reading is now like possible. There's obviously audiobooks, but I know there's also like a lot of apps that can help like break your book into like chunks, or that can help you kind of set like a little reminder. On my iPhone, I actually have something that kind of reminds me every day, like hit your reading goal. So there's definitely ways of kind of making it a part of your routine. Well, I know both of you have brought some books today, so maybe we can talk about your latest reads, maybe what you've learned from them. why you pick them?
Yeah, I think I have a book from Ali Niknam, which is the founder of Bunk and Trends IP, so really big Dutch entrepreneur. I think one of the biggest these days. And I really like to read books from people that are like in your country. In this case, the Netherlands. But what what I had as number one lesson from the book was primarily just the persistence, right? So he talks about, entrepreneurs are never lucky. Well, obviously there is some luck in it and there isn't luck. He also talks about that, but the main thing is just the persistence. And the moment you stop persisting, it's either you give up or you have succeeded. And I think that's like a really nice thing. And it also keeps it simple. I think entrepreneurship itself is also keeping it simple. And one other thing, lesson 2 maybe, is that he talks about products. And in this case, Instant is a product. And the product needs to be so good, it sells itself. So there are like a lot of these one-liners with a story underneath, which really, keep it simple, right? Don't overcomplicate it. And I think that was like my main lesson. And obviously, what I said at the beginning of the podcast is really the mindset thing, right? That's just what you read, right? A funny, pretty crazy story that he worked for them 30 hours and then he woke up at the McDonald's parking spot, right? Those are things like you're like, not that per se I want to do it, but it just gives me the mindset of, wow, that's like the definition of persistence. So if you catch me somewhere at the McDonald's this weekend, you know why.
He was inspired by this book.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I think those are both very interesting lessons. And I like what you said about it. You have to be able to kind of like find things that resonate with you. And in this case, this sounds like the topics are something that I imagine as like a CEO of like a startup or like very like in the front of your mind. So when you're like picking a book, what are those kind of things that you're looking for?
I think picking a book in general, I think Sam and I do a lot of
picking together.
So it's like
book club, bros book club.
So I order 2, he orders 2. And I think it's a bit not per se really strategic. Sometimes you read something and you read 5 pages and you're like, this is nothing, and you put it away. But a lot of times you're like, okay, this is pretty good. So you continue. So I think also when you start reading a book, if it's shit, don't read it. Just put it away and order a new book or audio book or however you want to do it. I personally like the physical books because it's like a small medal you can put in your bookshelf.
Because I was going to say, I want to hear your book, Sam, but I do want your hot takes on this. Like a lot of people now are switching to like a Kindle and stuff. Are you still team like book in hand?
A Kindle is nice for obvious reasons, but when it comes to a business book or self-improvement, whatever, I think a physical copy is really nice because you can write stuff down. You can it's easy to read it back. It's always in your closet. You can scroll through it sort of again. I also, for me personally, I find it more satisfying to have something in my hand and flip the pages and then it's over and then I put it in the closet, as you said, sort of like a achievement.
In the closet with your clothes?
book, whatever.
You know, in Amsterdam, there's limited living space. You have to figure out, like, is it worth it to hang my shirts or have, like, my book collection?
In the books,
I would go bookshelf.
In the closet.
Bookshelf. So I would say 90% of the books I read are physical copies.
Okay. I'm also team physical book. I think like you, Koen, I really love like looking at my wall where I have them kind of stacked up on this
or
shelf.
The closet.
See.
Yeah, my girlfriend doesn't like the physical copies. It's really funny,
no.
like because it's too much. There are so many books over the years. There are like hundreds of books. Yeah. So sometimes it gets a bit too full. So the main books I like the most, I put in the house, and the other ones are in storage.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need a little instant library.
Yes, I think, we had it actually at like older offices. But
we also have a small library.
But we should.
Yeah.
I picked a book yesterday.
Nice.
Woman in Tech, HBR, recommendation from
Recommended
Becca.
from Becca. If we're going to drop the Rex. So, Sam, what book did you bring?
I wouldn't say it's my favorite book, but I think it's...
the read of the moment.
The read of the moment, and just... I don't know, sort of fundamental book. Like we discussed, some books can change your view on things. And it's Discipline is Destiny by Daniel Craig. No, by Ryan Holiday.
Okay.
And Discipline is Destiny it's more about the person that is super disciplined eventually gets to choose his her own destiny. And what it basically sort of means is that the person that sort of restricts himself or herself the most. So if we look at a soccer player, don't eat junk food, go to the training 1 hour before, practice for an hour longer after training, like all these sort of restrictions, super disciplined, or entrepreneur in a job, like read a book a day, go to the gym, go to bed early, don't drink alcohol, like all these sort of things. If you are super disciplined, in the end, you are in a situation where you can choose your own destiny. And that's also what he says, discipline equals freedom, which I like. And freedom can be many things. Freedom can be the classical financial freedom, but it can also be the freedom to, I don't know, demand a certain salary, or decide in which country you want to work, or which job, which sort of company. And it's the people that sort of restrict themselves the most, that are the most disciplined in whatever they do, that eventually get to choose. And I think that's just, it's true. And it's, I believe, a good mindset to sort of carry with you, that discipline sort of pays off.
Absolutely. I think it's actually very interesting. I know you said you pick your books together, that you're reading about like persistence and how it's not about luck, and you're reading about like discipline and how that's how you can choose your destiny. So even between the two of you, it's like you can see that there's some kind of like interconnecting threads to the type of books or topics that are resonating at the moment, both being startup founders, and I imagine having similar challenges or things that you're trying to think about or navigate.
Yeah, like in certain periods of the year, you're interested in maybe these sort of books, and other times you want to read about marketing. And I think it always changes, and it's okay that it changes. Just read or buy a book that you want to learn something about right now. There's no right or wrong book that you can read. Just pick one that you think is interesting, marketing, personal stuff, finance, whatever, and then, just read, see what you think about it.
Absolutely. Well, before we started recording, Koen also had like a really interesting point, which I wanted to get to, which was you can read a lot of books, but how do you take what you read off the page and into your life?
Yeah, you can read 100 business books, but it's not going to give you $1 billion company, right? It's, I think, the knowledge, the mindset, like small things, bits and pieces that can help you achieve that goal. But I think, you should just see it as like it's the same as a workout, right? Workout keeps your body and mind sane, eating healthy as well. And reading really helps you grow and help you with a few things, but shouldn't be the core thing of your day, right? It's a tool that is going to help you achieve your goals, but achieving your goals really starts with yourself and starts with executing yourself on your goals. And just what you read, just execute on it. Right? If you read the 30-hour work day, try it. See if you like it. And probably not. But what you read, you should just try it. And I think with Sam said, a good one is a marketing book, right? There are a lot of marketing books. And one of them we talked about, which is the founder of Privy, or Founder Brand. And that's a book which talks about the personal brand, and we already had some personal brands in the past, both ourselves, but that book just gave us a nice strategic outline on how to perceive the personal brand, and we read it, and literally 2 days later we executed on it because we started Founder's Diary. So I think that's like a perfect example of how what you should read, you should just execute on it. And I think we talk about reading about non-fiction. There's also fiction, but I think the non-fiction can definitely help you achieve your goals. And same with fiction. I think our father always says it. Guys, you should read some fiction. It can help you with the thoughts. But for some reason, when I read fiction, I can't read more than 10 pages. It's like really weird how it works. Like I just can't. I tried multiple books, but I just can't. And I think it's more the mindset I have myself, that I just am so laser focused on the goals that I see if I read this, maybe it's not going to help me get there. for some reason.
Interesting, yeah.
Coming back to the value like of reading, we said it's important, but as you also mentioned, like reading can also become dangerous because people always tend to sort of think, okay, when I'm ready, then I will do this or that. So when I know more about this, then I will finally start my business. And I think books can sort of give more power to that thought. Like, okay, when I read these 2 books, then I will start my podcast because I need more info. And only when I read these few things, then I will start working out. So I think it's also, it can become dangerous because books allow you to put things off. You want to have more information until you finally do something. So what you also already said is that books are really great alongside sort of action. So doing and reading. And when it becomes just reading or just doing, that's, I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think it should always be alongside each other, doing and reading. Yeah.
Absolutely. It kind of brings me back to like some book clubs from my youth where you always have to read the book, but also kind of digest it, figure out like something from it. Like even when I was a kid, we had to read like these books about people growing up in like the Midwest, and we had to learn how to like make the butter that they did in the book. So even it's like very practical example, but like now, like with all these nonfiction books you read or like kind of help books or business strategy books, I imagine that's kind of the joy is when you've read something, you've put in the work, you've thought about it, you try it, you see, did I have the same results? Or perhaps I could write my own book because my take was completely different.
Exactly. I think that's where it becomes really valuable if you put the things you read into practice as much as possible and not just build a bank of knowledge that you don't do anything with.
True. Well, maybe before we wrap things up, you can each give, of course, our last piece of advice for listeners out there. Maybe it could be a book that they could read.
I have a good tip. It's also a question you already asked, I believe. Like, how do you find these books? And for us, it's a challenge. And the more you read, the harder it becomes to find good books. And what I mostly do is I just look up certain people that I admire, and most of those people also always have a website with their favorite books, and then from that list I pick the books that I find interesting.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think maybe to tie into what Sam said, like for example Patrick Bet-David, if you Google him, he has a great website with all his top recommendations. I think it's a really well-respected entrepreneur with a great personal brand. And I think my tip is just read, but not too much. Just also focus on the execution part. So I think reading a book a day, I think that's Tai Lopez's thing. That's complete BS. But just do 10, 20 pages a day, and that can really help you achieve anything you have. And I think we now mainly also talk about business books, but it's also self-help. So there are also way more topics you can learn from, right? Personal challenges, relationships. There's just so much knowledge out there that can really just help you. And I think I personally read like every self-help category. Just look at yourself. What do you want to learn? And just pick up a nice book. Read 10 pages a day. Keeps the doctor away.
10 pages a day keeps the doctor away. Well, you heard it here. Well, this has been another great episode. Maybe if you're listening, if you've listened this far, first of all, thank you. And second of all, maybe you can drop some comments on what books Sam and Koen should read next. And maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode. Give you a little shout out. Well, thanks again, Sam and Koen. Another great conversation. And until next time, this has been another edition of The Founder's Diary.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Over and out. Let's go.
Hot mic takes.
Reading is stupid.
No. Camouflage.
Where is Koen?
Yes.
My hair.
Yeah.
Not so camouflage, the blonde hair.